Welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is a part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Any ideas expressed by the guest, myself, or commenters may not necessarily reflect the same opinions of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. Enlightenment defined. It is the state of giving or receiving greater knowledge and understanding about a certain subject or situation. Evolution defined. The gradual development of something, especially from a simple to more complex form. So what is enlightenment evolution? The state of giving and receiving greater knowledge as we develop from a simple to more complex human being living on Earth for our soul's experience. Welcome now and join us as we explore our Enlightenment Evolution Hour together. The Enlightenment Evolution Hour is simulcast live every Wednesday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific from the Enlightenment Evolution Hour page, Matrix Minds Facebook page, and the ET Whisper YouTube channel. It is also redistributed from the Forbidden Knowledge News Network and Conscious Awakening Network. Hey everybody, welcome to the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I am your host, Rob Gauthier. We're here on Wednesday, as we are most every Wednesday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific. Hello, welcome everyone in the chat. Welcome everyone who's listening to the multiple networks that we broadcast on afterwards. Welcome to all of you in whatever format you're listening to this. Welcome. I want to say we've got a very amazing special guest today, Toni Ghazi, who I've had a wonderful couple of opportunities to meet now. An amazing dude, but we're going to bring him in just a few. As all of you know, to some of your great heart's excitement and to others' dismay, it is time to do the announcements. So we're going to do the announcements. First of all, we've got the network announcements, and the network announcements are the same as they are always. We have this show every Wednesday, and every Tuesday and Wednesday on Instagram Live, there is Out There Talk with Valiant himself. That's at Out There Talk, all one word on Instagram. And that show is run by the one and only Valiant himself, who is the lead singer to the heavy metal band Valiant Thor. For all of you old school video gamers, Guitar Hero 2's song Pangea was their song. Amazing band, amazing guy. And he loves all things out there. So you can catch him at 11:59 Eastern on both of those days, but he is off right now. So go back and look at his old archives. You can find myself and a lot of the guests who've been on the show there. An amazing show. Secondly, for the show announcements, the only announcement we have is next week we will have the one and only Wendy Kennedy with us here again. Amazing channeler, amazing lady. I love her very much. Good friend of ours. And she'll be back here next week to hang out with us. And for the ET Whisperer, there are a few announcements. First of all, guys, we have... I am so sorry. I've got a... There we go. All right. We have the Lemurian Life Expo coming up next month already, guys. If you cannot believe that it's already here, it's here. And that's going to be the 20th through 24th. If you're going to Mount Shasta and be there live, that'll be awesome. If you're not, you can get this ticket online, and you can get it online streamed all days for all workshops and for all of the main stage presenters. It's going to be an amazing time. So if you want to check out that, go to LemurianLifeExpo.com. Also, I have a link that I will share about that in the chat at some time tonight. Then, the very next month, we have, and you know what? I don't have my 16.9 file for that. I'll get it and share it with you by the end of the night because we'll be talking about it anyway. We're actually, you know what? There we go. That's good enough for now. Actually, no, it's not. That's the totally wrong one, guys. Sorry about that. We have the Stargate Crusader Retreat, which is going to be in Connecticut, and it's going to be July 14th through 16th. We're going to have last week's guest, Glenn Mate, there, Debbie Solaris, myself, a lot of great presenters. Tyler Ellison has been on the show before, a good friend of our show and a good friend of ours. And tonight's guest, Toni Ghazi, is going to be there too. So keep your eyes peeled for that, guys. The link for that is StargateCrusader.com. You can also go to my website and click. But remember, you can still get 10% off, I believe, till the 24th of this month with discount code ETWhisper24, all one word, all cap letters, ETWhisper24, and go there. Then the very next month, I'm jumping month to month next this whole year for all summer long, June, July. And then in August, we will be in New York, upstate, Lake Ananando, and I probably butchered that. I'll have the poster up for that in just a second. That is going to be with our dear friend Jim Charles from the Human Colonies. Myself and Kalina will both be there. All of you may remember Karen Newman. She goes now by another name, but she will be there with us too, as will be Jim Charles. And unfortunately, I can't get that to pop up. But anyway, all of us will be there. It'll be a great thing. You can go to my website and find out how to register to that. And my email list. If you're not on my email list, go to etwhisper.com. Wait 10 seconds. The email list thing will pop up. And if you sign up for that, you'll not miss anything. And the last announcement is that we're hoping this week, and let me show you the poster for the last one, guys. That's the Hokolo or Huako gathering leaders. Go to huakogathering.com. That's the one in New York. But January 3, 4, and 5 next year, the channel panel will be in Sedona, Arizona, and we will have the website up within the next week for that. We still have presenters to bring. We still have other things going, but all of the main presenters that we have are going to be there already, and we have a very cool lineup for that one. Daryl Anka will be there, channeling Bashar, and also doing a workshop. Wendy Kennedy will be there. Lisa Royal Holt will be there. Jamie Price will be there. Sean Swanson will be there. Daniel Scranton will be there. Myself and Kalina will be there. And we have much more to announce as it goes. But ticket sales will be available. Hopefully by the end of this weekend, we'll have the site completed and ready to sell tickets for that. It's going to be an amazing thing. That's it. I ran way over on the announcements, guys. I want to talk about the guest today. We've got Toni Ghazi. The Antarean-Heart is a channeler and spiritual guide working through the Praying Mantis Beings, and specifically the Antares-Stargate, to bring through messages of unconditional love and integration to help guide humanity back to its true self in the essence of activating and remembrance of who we are and creating a life of alignment, journeying through the Mantises, and I messed that word up, Mantises beings, or the praying mantis type beings that you guys might be very familiar with. You will help learn the ways to restructure belief systems from limited to limitless expansion. Now, I could talk to you guys for a long time about Tony, but I think it's best if we bring him in and chat with him ourselves. Welcome, Tony. Thank you so much for being here, brother.
Thank you, Rob. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I love you. The universe loves you. Creation loves you.
Well, thank you, brother. I love you too. And it's always amazing to be able to bring people here who I've been able to meet in person, because I've just started to get back on the road the last year or so, the last 6 months. And I've got to meet a lot of great people. And you were one of the people who stuck out. We had a mutual friend, Daniel James, who I've known for years and who's a great guy. And also, you were at both of the events that I did in Sedona, and I got to spend some time with you and get to know you. And I want other people to get to know you. So I want to start first with where we always start with every guest. I want to know your story. But before we get to that, I want to know the thing that made you you. So what I want to know, some of the influences in your childhood, the early years, what type of people, places, things, experiences happened to you that created the Toni Ghazi that could have the story that you have?
Yeah, it's a very good question. A lot to share, but I'll kind of keep it brief in a sense. So I'm Lebanese. I grew up in Lebanon, and I moved to the U.S. when I was 15 years old to Washington, D.C. area. That's where I live currently. And I moved here speaking zero English, like not in English straight to high school, which was a whole journey. But like going back to Lebanon, so I grew up in a Christian household. My mom was Maronite, like which is like part of Catholicism, and then my dad was Greek Orthodox. So like we grew up in like the Christian religion, and we were religious. Like we weren't like super fanatic religious, but like Jesus, Mother Mary, all the saints were super prevalent in everyday conversation. And like we went to a school that was religious too, so there's a lot of religion that was being taught. And like from early on, I had a belief in God, the way that it was predefined by society and like religion, like Christianity. And you know, like you go through life and you just kind of follow like your parents, you follow the culture. And as you grow up, and if I'm moving too fast, let me know. You know, like you know, as like you grow up when you move to the U.S., you know, like you know, I've gone through high school. You know, I had to learn English. And then you get to college, and then you begin formulating your mind, right? College kind of pushes you, in a sense, to think on your own. And then I began expanding a bit, I guess by a bit away from Christianity and like religion and slightly into spirituality. I mean, very tiny like steps. And then looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, there were so many little dots or so many like, little crumbs. But then like back to my childhood, I have always stuttered, and actually like my dad's side of the family have always stuttered, and I use the word like and I use to help me transition. And it has gotten a lot better, but like there are times where the word just doesn't come out. I go, and it just doesn't want to come out. So if you hear the ums and likes, that's part of the new spiritual journey of accepting that version of me and really loving it. But I was super anxious when I would go to school. I really loved learning, but I disliked going to school because I would get like called on to speak or to read, and I mean like my heart would be like throbbing all day long from the moment I get to the bus like until we leave school. It was a prison of like language for years and years and years and years and years. But I've learned to deal with it now, and you know I've learned to accept that part of me. Yes, and I've had a few experiences like when I was a child, where I remember seeing this ghost of a boy in the hallway of our home. And then I went to my mom like, oh my God, Mom, look, there's this boy in our house. She's like, no, like you're just watching horror movies, or you're watching, like she just dismissed it as if I just hallucinated. But now looking back, I know that it was a ghost. I had another experience where we were like where like we were at school, where I saw these three witches, like literally, you know, on a broomstick, that were like flying above school, and three other of my friends also saw it too. But the rest of the kids didn't, but I know that I saw it. So really, like looking back, I've had all these little like tidbits of, okay, like there was the paranormal. I could see beyond the veil, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
It's amazing that you say that too, because a lot of people who come into this journey are either activated early on, just completely boom, they're already highly psychic, they're getting downloads, visions, whatever, and kind of already plugged in as a young kid, and it never stops. It just, they grow better understanding. And then there are people like yourself and me who had very small parts and pieces and had to go through our programming to get there. So I find that really interesting, how those are basically the two big pathways through the spiritual journey. But I did want to ask you about the stuttering. You said it comes through your father's side, and you said that your dad and some of his family had stutters. So I imagine this isn't something that just happened after you learned English. This was something when you were speaking Lebanese and when you lived in Lebanon, and kind of just the transition to learn English and go through that probably made it even that much more difficult, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I've always stuttered, and it was such a. And I even asked my mom like recently, about a year and a half ago, if she remembers like when I stuttered, because I wanted to kind of like pinpoint like if I was 3 or 4 years old, like, did I really stutter, or like, did it begin after a specific, I guess, age? She wasn't able to answer it very clearly, but I mean, I felt it was it was one of the most debilitating, like, thing any human could feel, and I'm sure there's a lot of other traumas that we all go through that are um, I'm like, that a person like would feel that way. But like, to me, like, speech was very important because because I wanted to share like my truth, and I wanted to speak my voice, and I could not. I absolutely could not, and it killed me from the inside. I felt such a prisoner of my own, like, throat. Um, it was really awful for years. I mean, from the age of 5 that I remember until I was 18, every day I would go to school, and of course, you go to school a lot of days a year, filled with anxiety. And like, now I know that it's called anxiety. Like, then my heart would just be thumping out of my chest, really like not wanting to be called, like, by the professors or like the teachers. And of course, I would get called every freaking single time. Every time I would get, and I would stutter, and I would sweat, and I would have tunnel vision, and I would just feel so embarrassed, and I had so much shame. Um, and like, just as I'm speaking about it right now, I'm really sweating because it's something I don't always delve into. Like, I say that I stutter, but I don't go into the past and like the memories of it. And now I feel like, I'm kind of remembering how debilitating it was for me.
I'm sorry.
But
I'm
like,
sorry you had to go through that too. But I imagine now that you understand more about how things work energetically, that fear and the constant thought, no, 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 don't call me, that kind of brought that right to you, didn't it?
yes, totally. And I mean, like, 100%. And then the praying mantis like told me that the reason that you went through this theme of not being able, like, to speak orally, because you were not meant to speak and use words. You were meant to use energies then, and you were meant to communicate in a different way that you were not open to or aware of. And it was a beautiful message that kind of disintegrated all the shame and all the guilt and all the stories that I created as I was a child, that I'm not enough, that I'm broken, or whatever that like went through your mind. You know what I mean? And now I see it from a completely different perspective, and I honor that journey, and I really thank it, and I talk to the stuttering, and I embrace it. I mean, this is who I am. I'm as real as it can be, right? We all have our stuff in life, and this is one of them for me.
It's very brave for you to talk about it too. I know a lot of the traumas that we have as children, sometimes those can be hard to talk about, and I feel very much that you're very, very similar to me. Maybe you don't share all the things in your life that are happening or did happen, but you share the things that were important to your journey, because the more I've learned about being around people and about people with their eyes and ears on you, and kind of following what you're saying and what you're doing, it's always important for them to know the journey, because it teaches them either something opposite about their journey that they had never considered, or something that is so similar they can apply the things that you've gone through and the lessons you learned to their own life. And um, and I do want to get into your story, but before we do that, I just want to kind of ask you, since you've been channeling publicly now and sharing that information, have you noticed similar things that people can find healing through hearing those hard times of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I find so much compassion, like, from everybody. Like, the moment they hear that I stutter, I see that all their faces become hearts to me. They become like this beautiful vessel of like love, and all the love that I needed, like, for myself, I see it through their eyes to me. So it's a cool dynamic of how they, like, receptive they are, and how much they don't care. Like, who cares if you stutter, right? It comes energetically. I'm like, you're right. Who cares if I stutter? But of course, the stories for 20 years or more were so, like, immense. It was like the main topic in my own mind. But the cool part about it is that I'm like, when I channel, I don't stutter at all. I have the most fluid speech. I feel so free. It's one of the most miraculous things that ever happened to me. I love being in this channeling state because I'm like, I'm such a flow. Um, And like that gave me kind of the confirmation that I do channel, because I'm like, I know I stutter on a daily basis. I have for 44 years. I'm 44 years old. And like when I channel, absolutely not a lick of stuttering. It's like the most beautiful flow of energy that is just so loving. And yeah, and when you're vulnerable and like you share your true story, it gives people the opportunity to share their vulnerability and their true story, because we all have something we came here, like a theme of exploration, right? Of limitation. Obviously, mine was the speech, to speak my truth, and to speak it in that manner, right? In that 3D like way. But it makes me more human, right? Because sometimes people, they look at Bashar and they look at other people, or like whatever, or you look at Hollywood people, and we all put them on this unreal pedestal that they're not as human as we think they are, and they're as real as you are. They have insecurities. They like were brought up in their own way. They have their own issues beyond the persona of the story that we create for them, right? So it's really beautiful just to be your authentic self. And it's also honoring my journey, right? And as I'm speaking it out to people and sharing it, I'm bringing like awareness to it, to my own self, that I'm honoring my journey, and it's okay if I stuttered. And it was part of my path. It was part of my expansion. The Mantises opened my eye out a lot about everything in life, and like we can discuss that later. But everything is expansion.
Well, I really do appreciate both you sharing that and sharing from that place of transparency and vulnerability. I think that's really important. I always say the community, and when I say the community, I mean metaphysics, channeling, the spiritual aspect of the entire community. And a lot of time you get people who share their information, are out there being heard by people, and they just don't do that. They put on the show like, hey, this is what I think people want to hear and see. And it's heartbreaking to me, but not because they're doing it. They've got to deal with their own stuff. But the people who listen to them put themselves through this impossible task of, oh my God, this person is just perfect. They just said they're pretty much enlightened. That means I'm failing because I can't do that. And I find that so horrible of a thing to do to people. So I really appreciate that. So let's get into your story. I want to hear from this young man who came to the U.S., who fought through the communication aspects, the speech aspects, the throat chakra energy. Tell us how that kid became someone in the spiritual energy and spiritual understanding, and eventually into the channeling.
Yeah. So it's like, before I answer the question, I'm going to add one more little tidbit of being super vulnerable, because like this also ties to another journey. Like when I think turned 18 years old. So I was also molested when I was a child by a family member, and so I'm gay now, and I'm attracted to men. And I have a husband. But like when I was a child, I remember clearly I was very attracted like to women, right? And like there are stories we can get on like offline of why, right? But after like the molestation happened, or like the many times happened, I switched somehow and I became attracted to men. And like that was another part of me that I had to kind of like be okay with, and that's another, I guess, theme of exploration that like my soul wanted to experience. But like when I turned 18 years old, my brother outed me to my family, and I've always had the most amazing parents. They were the most loving parents you could ever ask for. And on top of that, I come from a very poor background and like super modest. We weren't super rich or anything of that sort, but they always gave us love. And like when he outed me, I thought, okay, like my parents are going to be great, right? It's going to be amazing because they always like really shown love. It was a huge shock for them that I got kicked out of the house when I was 18, and I had to live on my own, at a young age, because my dad couldn't face that reality. And of course, mom always had a heart, and she tried to kind of finagle and like be the balance. But it was tough for the family, and then in like retrospect, I can see that this was like their journey, and I see it from like a very different lens now than I did then. But like that was another like spiritual like awakening of being rejected. What I felt being rejected by my parents, when I always thought like they loved me, right? And I was placed out on the street in a sense to kind of fend for myself, and I was dating a guy who was my first boyfriend, and then luckily, I mean, I was able to live with him for a year, and I had a home. I wasn't homeless on the street, and I was so guided by the guy. So that kind of opened up my eye about love and what love means and how to experience love, and and um, and then like being sheltered by this like boyfriend who was kind of a stranger like initially, but he understood my trauma, what I just went through, and he opened up his home for me to feel safe. And then my individuality like then really like began blossoming to where I had to be a man, right? I had to really be who I am and discover really who I am on that journey, right? Because up until like when you're 18 and in like the Middle Eastern, like Lebanese background, you're always bombarded on who you should be, how you should act, like what kind of education like you should have, if you should be an engineer or a doctor, if you're a male or whatever like the case may be. So there was a lot of, you have to be in this lane. But like when I was kicked out, I was forced to begin my new lane, and that was brand new to me. I never had a voice. So there was a lot of learning, and it was very spiritual. You know, as I look back right now, it's almost like I was born for the first time, like when I was 18, and I was like, I'm in the world, what do I do now? And I had to figure it out.
That's tough, but it's beautiful too. The experience of not knowing you and then having to find that is very important. I hear a lot of people go through that when they've had falling outs with their families, or when they are with a person, a partner, a husband or wife, for many years and then have a divorce. They are so ingrained with that energy, and family's the same way. You're living with them, your energy fields are on top of each other, so you're kind of like a mixed bag of all that energy. And I know, from all of my Middle Eastern and Asian friends, it's very important that you do what the family expects of you. And it's very important to better yourself with education and the specific successful jobs, and that's been a burden of almost all of my Asian friends and Middle Eastern friends that I've ever met who've had parents who came from those countries directly and then moved here, or even if they're still there. So yeah, I can't imagine the stress, but and I don't want to be too personal, and if I am, please tell me. Have you been able to reconcile with your parents since then, or is that something where you guys can't connect anymore?
Yeah, no. So it took them about 10 years of like back and forth, right? Because like they had to go through their own journey of their own shame, right? And their own guilt or whatever stories that they created. But they asked me like to hide that aspect of myself. So I hid myself. I lived a double life until I was 32 years old, to where like I would go to work and everybody would ask, oh, like, do you have a girlfriend? I'm like, oh, and I would always say, oh, like, I haven't found one. So I would lie to my own self, and I would lie to them. And I didn't want to lie. I wanted to say, I'm not attracted to girls, I'm attracted to men. But for up until I was 32, it was this whole struggle from like 18 like to 32, where I had to live these two lives. And it was tough. And like now looking back at it, there was a lot of shame, there was a lot of guilt, there was a lot of unauthentic versions of me that were spoken that I didn't want to speak, but I felt forced to speak it because of fear, and because my parents didn't want my uncles and aunts to know. They specifically like said, do not, in a sense, like tell like the world who you are. You have to hide who you are, right? In like many different ways. And I did do that because like, I didn't want to hurt them, and I felt bad, and I thought that they were working with me, but I was really hurting myself like throughout that whole like journey. And then when I was 32 or like 33, I was just fed up, and I had the courage to tell like this friend and a client that I'm actually gay, or like when they ask if you find a boyfriend, if you got married in like the context of if I found a girl, I would say I'm gay. So it took it took some years to be in that space, and now in the past, I'm 44 now, so in like the past 10 years, I've embraced that part of me, like with no shame, and now I'm embracing my spirituality because I'm out like this, like with this energy, like with these tattoos everywhere that I go. I'm like not this outfit, but like with this tattoo, and then like this line on my nose, like which means neutrality, everywhere. And I'll tell you about my 3D job and like what I do like later. But I've embraced even that aspect of me, right? So I've embraced like the gay aspect of me, and then I've embraced like the spiritual like channel of me. And there was a point last year where I actually found out, and that's another. I have really wild stories, that I actually am not gay, but I'm bisexual. So there's something that kind of like reformed and unformed to make me realize I'm not just that label, and I'm beginning to see love and attraction and like sexuality from a very expanded ways, and I really attributed like to like to the mantis beings, because I feel like they're like disintegrating and they're just breaking down the walls of like limitation, what love means, what like sexuality means, and like what intimacy means. So I keep evolving every day, and I keep surprising myself with this crazy like versions of me, and it's beautiful because we're everything, right? We're not just this one identity or this one label, right? So
Exactly. I love that too, and I love that you're able to flow into that. Now, this is something that I've always wondered and considered. Myself and Kalina actually were talking about this just a couple of days ago. Every friend I know who is a homosexual male was molested or worse at some level when they were younger, and not everyone, because some of my gay friends, I don't ask them because we're not at that level yet, or just it doesn't come up. But all the ones who shared that with me have shared that, and I know almost every person that I know has played around with the same sex of theirs, even if they're heterosexual, as a child. So I've always kind of concluded that we're on a spectrum of bisexuality, like all humans have that in them naturally, and then the shape of their sexual experiences kind of pull them one way or the other, or right to the middle. um, and that's kind of the thing that I've seen, especially when it's centered around first sexual experiences, where the most adrenaline, hormones, and just the feeling of that first interaction with your second chakra really forms that energy. I as a young kid, probably about 5 years old, was molested by a female who was an older kid of the people we used to stay with. My mom's friend babysat us, and one of her daughters, who was about 13 or 15, had groped me and done some things with me too when I was young, and that actually formed a lot of the sexual excitements going into an adult. The certain aspects of that, I'm not going to get too graphic about it, but so I really feel that there's some validity to that. But even saying that, some people are like, oh my God, Rob, that's ridiculous. That is absolutely no, you're either born this way or that. But I really feel like all of us have the possibility of all of that. In myself, as a kid, I experimented with other boys to some degree, enough to know that it wasn't for me. But, you know, people who found that and it kept their excitement, they ended up having more bisexual or homosexual feelings. So what do you think there's any validity to that that kind of proposition that my own brain created?
yeah, I mean, look, I don't like. I mean, look, if you asked me this question like 3 years ago, or like 2 years ago, like before, like before my mind exploded into consciousness, I would have a completely different answer. But now I really believe that when we're like growing up as kids, whatever, 3, 4 years old, like whatever, like the right age is, we don't see like sex or sexuality from a like limited perspective. And it's so easy in our society now. We've been so brainwashed. It's so physical, right? And I've been very physical all of my life. I would be attracted to men purely physically. And I'm not saying if they look good or not, but like the physical aspect of their body was my main focus, I guess subconsciously. Recently, I've learned to really have intimate like relationships, and I could feel sexual through the intimacy, which I've never felt for 43 years. It was
Yeah.
just one way. You know what I mean? And I didn't know what that was. It was so strange to me. And like that's how I found out that I was bisexual, because like through the intimate, just emotional expression, I was aroused, right? That I've never, and that was like a mind-blowing experience. It scared the crap out of me. I didn't know who I am anymore. I freaked out for 2 or 3 days. I'm like, oh my God, for 43 years, I thought I was this, and am I really this? And it was just like a disintegration of my own identity, which was so odd. So as like kids, I feel like we don't have those limitations, but they're imposed on us, and like somehow like they're filtered, and we begin kind of pushing away the infinite and just becoming in the lane of like physicality or whatever it is. Because and like welcome to my life of craziness and just all these openness. So I dated a woman for about, it was 5 years. It was a platonic relationship. We didn't have sex. Like we would sleep naked in bed, but we never had sex ever. And she turned my idea and opened my mind about love. I could love another person purely based on like their energy, and we knew that we lived past life, future lives, parallel lives. Again, when I was asleep, right? Like this was almost, I want to say like 14 years ago. But because of that experience, I experienced love from an expanded way, more than society would say, um, or like the books would teach you that, oh, you meet a man and you fall in love and you have happily ever after, or you meet a woman, you fall in love, you have happily ever after, like whatever. With her, I experienced this connection that was beyond sex. We never had sex. It wasn't never sexual. It was just energy. And I'm like, oh my God, like love comes in different forms. And I could see myself with this woman forever, like living with each other, like not having sex, but enjoying this intimate, like connectiveness of energies. Like I was happy with her. She was happy with me. Like she would complete my sentences. I was there for her when she needed me. She was there for me when I needed her. It was this beautiful, like yin, like to the yang, but without the limitation that it has to have sex involved, like with it. And that was my first like experience that love is not what I thought love was. And through that experience, I had 3 nights where I couldn't sleep. I was so afraid to fall asleep. I would feel super nauseous. I was completely afraid of like closing my eyes, because the moment that I would close my eyes, I would feel like this drop as if you're on a roller coaster and my heart dropping, which now I know it was an ego death, like of some sort, right? So a lot of things after after like I began channeling and I awakened like 2 years ago, all these little clues that I had no clue what was happening became clear now, and I'm seeing the breadcrumbs since I was a child up to now. How wow, I've been awakening little by little by little in very different ways, about sexuality, about love, ego death. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's like things are becoming clearer now that I never saw before. And I'm
And
excited.
usually that continues, right? That's going to continue for the rest of your life. You're going to unlock those other aspects of yourself. At least that's been true with me. And we're the same age. I'm 44 too. So, yeah. So we were born in the 80s, or in 1980 for myself. And then we went through this time that was very intense and very pressurized. Homosexuality was kind of something that didn't start getting open to the American culture, at least, until the late 80s. And even then it was a struggle. I think you're right, though. I think the bodies and the sexuality are pretty pushed on us and kind of framed on us. And you know uh, Ardif and myself, we actually did a whole course about sexuality, and it included extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional sexuality. And most races are just like that. We don't care if it's male or female. We care about love. And if the bodies connect in a way to reproduce or whatever, then that's for those that actually do reproduce that way. And for others, they just merge their energy and become like a shared entity. And that's their version of intimacy, sexuality. That would be a description of sexuality. So it makes sense that that should be the natural form. And I think once we evolve as a society, that's where it will get to. And now I think just a lot of people, the self-judgment about sexual feelings, thoughts, even if it goes to something that they think is taboo or something that isn't accepted culturally, whatever the case is, if you're not hurting people or infringing on the free will, then just let yourself go there. Let yourself get into it. Let yourself at least process it at some level. You know, if you don't, you hold trauma. And I don't think there's a human alive without sexual trauma at some level.
Right. Agreed 100%. And I mean, I've had some thoughts of exploring and just being like free, like with the idea of sexuality, and that terrified me. Like, I mean, even now, if I'm thinking of it, there's some fear that's tied to it, but also there's the other side that I hear that no, you're a natural being, like your nature, right? I mean, all the animals are like naked; they're not clothed, right?
Yeah.
They're natural beings, and they walk and talk, and in their own way, with no like shame of like being right. So yeah, so it's a journey, and it's just super exciting when you're on this path, when like things become clear and you become like more expanded and more free. It's like the more you expand, the more you free yourself from the limitation and the prison of society, right? And that's what Ascension is all about, is just expressing all the forms of who you are, right? But we're told your form is this, in this little box. It has to look this way. And if you go like beyond the little line, then it's bad or it's like judged. And no, we're everything. We're all. And all is okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I agree with you totally, and I think that's what we need to strive for as a society in general. But personally too, we do our bit to get to that point. I want to shift gears a little bit towards the channeling aspect. I want to hear how you got. Oh, sorry about that. I did not mean to drop my phone on the keyboard. I want to go to the part where you have started understanding yourself at all these different levels. Tell us about how you got to the first time in your channeling, and tell us a little bit about the first time you ever channeled or knew that it was a possibility to channel.
Yeah. So I was completely asleep up until COVID. Like literally when COVID came. I mean, when I say asleep, I was asleep. Like I didn't know what channeling was. I don't know the words in the terms of like spirituality, like very 3D life. And then COVID came, and then the whole world shut down. Everybody went into this fear mode, and I'm like, why is everybody so afraid? Are you kidding me? Like, I did not like resonate with all the rules and regulations that like were imposed by like the government and the world and blah blah blah. And then I ran into the Gaia channel, interview with extra dimensionals. That was literally my opening to channeling. And you were on one of the I think the first season. And I resonated.
It's amazing that that's how you found it first, was that show. A lot of people now that I've met have found channeling there first, and that's amazing to me. I love that.
Yes, I love Ruben Langdon. He's such a beautiful guiding light for even like coming up with that, being like courageous enough to allow these channels on. I mean, literally, I had no clue. So I literally like binged for 3 months on all the episodes. I think it was 2 seasons then. But as I'm listening to it, I understood the English of what was being said, but no clue about the concepts. But I'm not turning the channel. I'm not watching the episode. I'm rewatching it over and over again, so hungry for this information, but it's still not making sense, right? Like certain parts I understand, the other parts I'm like, what? Like it's so crazy. And then like looking back, what I realized is my consciousness was understanding everything. And it wanted me to be exposed to all these topics in a very short period of time. So it begins unlocking in the next year, like little by little. And it was the most beautiful journey I was so obsessed. I mean, literally, I watched each episode like 5 or 10 times, listening and listening. And again, not comprehending everything. It's not all making sense, but not watching it. And then a year later, like Bashar like came into my vibration. And ironically enough, he came into my vibration like 2 years ago on some YouTube thing. And when I was completely like asleep, I couldn't hear Bashar's name. I did not want to hear his voice. I thought his voice was so abrasive to my ear. And the messages were insane. Like, this guy's crazy. Like, I wasn't ready for any of that. But it popped into my vibration and then popped out. But then after the interview with Extra Dimensionals, I found his channel again. And I became obsessed with like for a year with him. I bought all his recordings from 1980 to 2020.
Whoa!
Listen to them. I have 640 recordings, whatever it is. Listen to them religiously for a year. But again, the same concept, not understanding everything he's saying, parallel realities, I don't know this, Sasani that, and Mantis, like everything was just like cuckoo crazy, but I would keep listening. At the gym, in the bathroom, as I'm showering, like my husband was like, "Stop!" He could not listen to Bashar anymore. He was so upset, like, "Put your he would yell at me, say, "Please put your headphones on. I cannot hear his voice anymore." I didn't want to put my headphones on. I wanted to be in the ether. Anyhow,
That's so great.
I mean, it was so awesome. And so like for 2 years, I was obsessed just listening to all the channels. I would listen to your YouTube stuff. I would listen to a few other channelers. And I became obsessed with having all these sessions. I don't know how many sessions I've had with channels, a lot. And then my cat, like Koba dies. Like he was 20 years old. But he was with my ex-boyfriend, my first ex-boyfriend that took me in. I'm like when my parents, like kicked me outside the house. And he reached out to me, said, "Oh my God, like Koba died." Like this was his name. And he asked me if I knew any animal communicator. And I'm stuttering like a bit now. You can see by the ums and the likes. So I'm gonna calm myself down a little bit. So I Googled like an animal like communicator, and I found 2 or 3, but they had a year wait list, like 1 year like wait list. And then I found Stephanie Light, who like talks like to animals, and like we had a session with her, and it was great. And through her, like I found that she teaches channeling, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna take her class. And it was like a 6-week course where you meet like once a week for like 2 hours, and like there were 6 other people in the class. So like the first episode, or like class, like she would explain what channeling is, and at this point I understood some of the concepts. The next like class, the like second one, I was so excited to channel. I was the first one that raised my hand. I'm like, I'm ready to jump in. I didn't know what I was doing. I said, I'm gonna close my eyes, I'm gonna go in it, and I'm gonna start blurting stuff out. And like initially I told myself, make stuff up, right? This was my cue that transformed everything. And I realized later that I wasn't making stuff up. I was channeling, but I wasn't trusting that what was coming through was really messages from the beyond, right? I was still in like this limited mindset of, oh, if I need to channel, I need to be out of it. I need to sound like Bashar or Rob Gauthier or this channel or that channel or Randy Kennedy or whatever. And I didn't trust my own voice. But I could feel that when I came out of the channeling state, it was an immediate contrast that I wasn't here. I didn't stutter. My voice sounded different. The words weren't words I would even speak. right? Their like vocabulary aren't in my vibration every day. And I got so excited. And it took some time to trust yourself that you are channeling, right? And it's always that struggle. Am I really channeling or am I making it up? But then through the Mantis being later, they said you can never make anything up because everything's already existing there. What's actually happening is you're connecting with other beings and you're having contact through your communication. So like you may think that you're imagining something. Imagination is not some fantasy you're creating. You're literally having contact with that other being or that other reality or that other concept. And you're having two-way communication. They're sending information to you, and you're receiving information from them, and it's a co-creation. And that's what communication is. That's what like imagination is. So I became so excited that me and like 3 of my friends like practiced for 5 straight months. Every Tuesday is from 8 p.m. to midnight, 1 a.m. to a.m. Like to the point my like my husband's thought, who are you dating? Like, how can you really be like, you know, how can you be really zooming for like 5 or 6 hours? I'm like, babe, you have no idea. The state you're in when you're excited, that was beautiful. And we were just having fun playing around. No like restriction, and we would channel everything. And like a lot of my YouTube stuff that you see early on is all like the practice channel, like with my friends, right? And then came a point where I actually became less reliant I became less reliant on all of the channels out there, and I became reliant on me. And there was this knowingness that I needed to rely on Bashar, on you, Rob, on this channel, on that channel, to just fill my consciousness with confidence. Because I know now, essentially, you are me. Bashar is me. Like Wendy Kennedy is me. Whoever else is like channeling is me. Those are other aspects of who I really am that chose to be on that path, in that like physical expression through those words. And it was just a beautiful expression of all of God, you know, of divine. And I began relying on me and trusting my messages and my feelings and what come through and the images that I get. Like to the point last July of 2023, so I've always slept really well, right? I could wake up, I could go to the bathroom 3 or 4 times, I could go back to bed like this. If I want to take a cat nap, I can nap quickly for 20 minutes and I'm up. In the past 2 years, I would wake up in the middle of the night at 2 or 3 a.m. and I cannot sleep for 2 or 3 hours. I cannot sleep. I'm not doing anything substantial. I'm not doing anything creative. But then I knew that spirit and like the divine is placing information in my consciousness that's going to get unlocked later. And like there was this one evening that I was like in a sense like called to create a decal on like the back of my car. I didn't even know how to order decals. I didn't know what they were called, but like somehow through Etsy, I found it was called decal. And I placed on the back of my car in Washington, D.C., that I'm the Antarean-Heart, that I channel the Praying Mantis Beings, I'm a spiritual guide, and here's my website. And I put that literally, this massive advertisement on the back of my truck. So I'm a realtor here, and I sell residential real estate. I have people in my car all day long, strangers from all walks of life, all grades of like financial status, like uppity, and like super modest. And I never placed, I'm a realtor on the back of my car. I don't feel called saying I sell real estate ever. The fact that I put that decal on the back of my car, knowing that tomorrow I'm going to have these strangers of crazy incomes, crazy jobs, CEOs, whatever, or not, that are going to be in my car, and I'm going to have to explain to them that I talk to extraterrestrials, that I channel. Like it was my proof to me that I'm stepping into that role. And because of that decal, the universe heard the calling and my world shifted exponentially into the spiritual world to the point I've been to 5 events. I'm having an event every single month until next February with you, with other people. it's just been an opening of like receptivity, and I feel different when I'm in this mode. I know this version of me. This is my time to spread love, and all the messages that the Praying Mantises bring is really about unconditional love, that we're all one, no judgment of any kind. They showed me images, made me experience things word cannot, no way on earth, our limited vocabulary can describe something that's infinite. But I feel it, I experience it, I see it. Crazy synchronicities. I can go the list of synchronicities that the Praying Mantises would come to me. I totally forgot for 43 years that like back home in Lebanon, at my grandmother's home, Praying Mantises were all over her yard, and we would talk about them all over her yard. And now it's mind-boggling that I totally forgot it until I awoke 2 years ago. Like, how can I have forgotten it? Like, it's insane. And I would show you a picture. Like, I was at a client's house this last February, and like we were at her house, and like we were speaking about selling her house. The sunlight was coming through the window. It hit the lamp, like this table lamp, and like the interior of the lamp, like you have the grid and like the light bulb. A praying mantis appeared with the antennas, with the mouth. There is no praying mantis in there, but it's the shadow reflection of, I mean, it was insane. I can show it to you on my phone shortly. And I was showing this condo on like the 12th floor of a building. 12th floor, there's not a plant, there's no life. A praying mantis was on the screen of that one unit that I was showing to a client. Praying mantis would be on the lockbox where realtors like leave their keys. And I don't see praying mantises here in Washington, D.C. Like crazy stuff like that, where they would show themselves over and over again to let me know of my connection. I have UFO sightings here. I have light ships over my house that I have recorded on my phone. I have a night vision camera up captured, crazy stuff. Like I could call them in, or I guess they're there. I could shift their frequency where I could capture them. I have these orbs that I could show you, these fairies I could show you, insane fairies where they would come right in front of the camera and like pure light energy, like clear as day. Ever since I put that decal, everything just went open. And I really attribute it to the fact that I stepped into the truth, not caring what the world says, not caring what my 3D job is, not caring what my parents would say, not caring what clients would potentially say, and really owning that part of who I am. And that just is the most beautiful thing. And like, this is what they really want us to do. All these beings, the Sasanis, like Treb, like Sasani, reptilians, they want you to be all those versions of who you are. You're not one identity. You're not one label. You're not Toni Ghazi. You're not just a channeler. You don't just channel like the Praying Mantis says. You're everything. You're divine. You're God. You're all of it. But sometimes you may be focused on one aspect because you need to get lessons from that one aspect, right? Because I always tell people, I don't know if I'm going to channel it for the rest of my life. I may or I may not. As crazy as my life has been in like the past 2 years, and how it unfolded the way that it is, I would never have experienced or imagined that I could channel or be at an event or do this, but it happened. So I don't even know what's going to happen 2 years from now, or even next year. I may shift to something completely like different, but now this is who I am, and I'm owning every ounce of it with no apologies and with love and with compassion. Always, 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 always spreading love. It's the glue to everything. It's the integrative force of the universe. It's just is. And love is in all of us. I see love in what we call bad people. I see love in every bad situation. I don't see anymore anything that's negative. I don't define the world as like being negative. I define it all as being experiences and expansions of the soul with no definition. I place the definition on that experience, right? I get questions about war sometimes, right? Like I'm like when I'm channeling, right? Because I like re-listen like to the sessions to see like what I said. And like there were questions about war and like people dying, et cetera, and how awful, da da da. The praying mantis made me feel so clear that every single one of you on that warplane is a divine being. You're simply playing a role. You are divine. You are made of love. You are made of light. You're on the stage of this like 3D reality, playing a role of the perpetrator or of the victim, simply to know what that feels like, what that means, and you're done. And they made me feel each of those roles are very powerful beings. I could not victimize like the victim. I could not victimize like the perpetrator anymore. I don't see them that way. And it creates a lot of debate. Like my husband goes nuts when I talk about this. Like he goes insane. I'm like, babe, I cannot explain it to you. It's just a feeling that I feel, that I know that all of us are pure love, are pure energy. We're just playing out these degrees of fast, like one little inch. Like I'm like looking at you right now. That's one reality. If I move an inch this way, that's another perspective in reality. If I move this way, another. It goes on and on and on. That's how source expands through every perspective from every lens. Um, so even through the idea of war, I feel love. I feel love from the victim, like the fact that the soul came to earth to play that role. How loving is it for it, him or her, to play that role, to open up our hearts, for us to be more compassionate than we ever were. If we ever were able to feel what love is, now they pushed you to another like level of love. Like look how beautiful the soul is to play that victim role, for your heart to open, to be compassionate. But also at the same time, it's even more difficult not to judge the perpetrator, because for the perpetrator to take that role of being the perpetrator, to allow that experience to occur, for the victimhood, for your heart to open up, it's all a co-creation. And I'm getting chills right now because I'm re-feeling whenever I channeled that message, whatever it was a year ago, I could feel it now of like, what a beautiful play that we're all doing as divine beings, every single one of us. And there is no death. Like, as you know, there's just an expression of energy from like physical to light, to a butterfly, to an alien, to a planet, and we're everything. And even Mother Gaia, like they spoke about the idea of like Mother Earth, that it's not this physical object, this globe with rivers and clouds and rain and trees. Mother Gaia and humanity are one of the same. And with our actions, with our experiences, with our expansions, we are reflecting what Mother Gaia looks to us through our experiences. We don't even know how beautiful Mother Gaia is. And it is part of us to begin with. There's none of this connection. I mean, I can go on and on about crazy topics of like knowingness and experiential, that words sometimes aren't enough to even describe what I felt through them. And I feel like I just rambled and maybe consciously channeled a little bit.
Well, that's great. I love the fact that when you owned it, it turned into something tangible, real, feelable, experienceable, and everything that came with that. I love that, because that's really the epitome of what the spiritual experience is for. You embody what it is that you're truly excited about, or what you feel called to, sometimes pushed to, whatever that layer is, and the acceptance is there. And you know, I love the experiences too that you've been able to have since then. You know, the mantoid energy is something that really a lot of people have a different perspective on. Some people really are uncomfortable with it. Some people are really affectionate and feel that love that's there. Um, what was the well? Before we get into that, let me back up to the imagination part. When you said the imagination part, you let that kind of flow, and then you felt the realness come through that. That really resonates with me too, because something Trevor Ardif had said many years ago to people who are having problems learning to channel. They say just start with imagination, because that energy is the same as opening your consciousness. Imagination is like unlimited probabilities. And if you think about it, with multiverse, with all the dimensions, with all the parallel realities, uh, even if you say, hey, you know, I'm Joe Schmo, the Carrot Man from Tennessee, there's a version of reality out there somewhere that kind of encompasses a similar energy. So even at that, you're just letting it flow. And just like actors do when they step on stage and say, now I'm Batman, they're really letting an energy outside of themselves come through, and they can embody that energy. And that's what imagination does. So the energy of imagination not really being imagination, I like the way that you shared that too. So let's get back to the mantis beings. Kind of explain to us the way that you understand the mantoid race, or the collective, or the mantoid beings. And specifically, a lot of time when you hear them brought up, they get brought up around hybridization programs, or connecting with gray beings. Can you share a little bit about maybe what you perceive in that too?
Yeah, sure. So I met the praying mantis beings like during my first past life regression. They came to me as the head, and it was an instant knowingness that it's a praying mantis. The next image they showed me is this long body silhouette, I don't know, 12, 14 feet, very tall, of this being. So, and like they told me that although like we're coming as like the praying mantis face, like technically we're not the physical like praying mantis. We're light-bodied energies, but we're coming through, I guess, the archetype of like the praying mantis to help your mind understand who we are, because it's like something you haven't been exposed to. So we want to kind of I guess drop down to like my frequency for me to like to be able to understand it. And then when all the synchronicities happened with all the praying mantises, I couldn't escape the visual. Again, praying mantis appears here, praying mantis. Okay, I'm believing now that I'm connecting like with the praying mantis. The ones that I connect with are of pure light, and it's still to this day I don't know exactly like where they come from technically. Like they come through like the Stargate of like the Antares, but they make me feel that they're beyond and they're infinite. So although I like think of them as like the praying mantis, immediately I also feel they're everything. There's two feelings at once that I could never like escape. But if I tell everybody they're everything, they're like, oh, well, how come they're not praying mantis? But I know what I know through them. And so they're both at once. Sorry, what was the question specifically?
No, it's all right. Just your experience with mantoid beings, and kind of what you feel they are. And I do want to offer an idea too, and take it or leave it as it is. My own understanding of the mantoid beings is that there are several types of them within the galaxy, that it's like an archetype of the insectoid. So maybe the idea of why you're feeling them as both physical beings and infinite, you might be tapping into a race of them when you're connecting to that visual aspect or the physical. But when you're feeling that they are everything, you're probably connecting to the collective consciousness of the whole race, or at least a large group of them. And that could be the feelings between them, you know, just as an offering from things that I've understood about that.
Yeah, no, I'm super happy. I'm like that you said that, because like when I first began channeling them, I actually had one mantid that's called Glovic, Glovic. That was his name, and I like connected with him for about, I don't know, like 6 or 7 months, and then I go to a showing like for real estate, like with clients, and I see a dead mantis under like a lockbox. I don't
Oh,
see the mantis.
wow.
Yes. And immediately I felt, oh my God, like my connection has severed like with the mantises, and I couldn't connect with him like for the next week. I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, I left my mantis. I'm not mantis anymore. Because I was excited to find like some identity. And then after that, like what came through is that the reflection of the one like dead mantis that was under the lockbox was a reflection that now I'm veering off the one actual mantis and I'm connecting to the collective. So it's ironic you just said what you said, because I am connecting more to the collective, like versus the one specific mantoid that came. That was his native growth.
That
So
makes
so thank
sense.
you for saying that, because that's our confirmation of what you said.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for I'm glad. I just felt called to tell. Usually I don't share my own aspects of my channeling on the show with the information that I've channeled, because channeling is exactly what it needs to be, and exactly, but I felt called to do that for this specific experience. Probably too, because this is something that's fairly new to you too. You said it's been in the last couple of years that you've been doing it. So 2 years of channeling has been a huge journey for you, but in the long run, as you continue to do it, you get to 5 years and 10 years and 15 years, there's these different explosions. And I think you're right. It's something that was kind of pointed to Kalina too. Maybe you won't channel them forever, or maybe you will, and also channel other beings, because for Kalina, her Arcturian beings that she channeled was her pathway. And actually, Treb and Art have called them her bridge guides, because they were helping her build the channeling to a way where she can connect with other beings. So maybe that is, or maybe you'll just channel them and just channel only that collective for your whole life. But either way,
Yeah.
the experience of being a channeler shifts and changes. And I love the fact that you've grown so quickly, because most channelers in the 2-year mark, it's a different story. They're just starting to really understand their channeling or feeling into it. And maybe there's some aspects of that to you too, but it feels like the way that you've integrated with that took forever. When you were telling me the stories of how you're able to perceive things in a neutral setting, and understanding that all things are source, even though I knew that mentally, it took me years to really start feeling that way about things. Like when I saw people getting upset about like the pandemic really encompassed this energy for me so well, because I saw people who felt similar ways to I did, and I felt people who were very extreme one way or the other. And then all of this fighting, and I'm trying to explain, hey guys, you're not each other's enemy here. You have valid feelings about your experience. So it took me a lot longer to get to that point where I could perceive everyone's truth as a valuable and important thing. So I want to give you a lot of props for that. We don't have a lot of time before we get to our lightning round. We just have about 3 or 4 minutes or so. So tell us about the type of work you're doing now. Like, what things you said you're doing a lot of events and stuff. And I want to talk to you about the event we're going to be doing in a couple of months too, after we do the lightning round. But
Sure.
kind of tell us, what is your average day of work look like now? What types of things are you doing with your channeling, and how are you doing it?
Yeah. So I have two lives. I have the real estate, which is full time, and I have this, which is becoming full time. Like the events take a lot of my time because I travel. I have each like I have an event from like May like until like next February. Like we're at Channel Live. And I do sessions on Zoom, like for clients, and I do them in person. I do land healing, and I do group sessions. I also have praying mantis skulls. Like we didn't talk about that, but that was my other. I'll show you one quickly here, just for your guests. So I'm the only one in the world that has praying mantis skulls, crystal skulls. I can't remember if you saw them
I
on the
did. I
show.
love them. I gotta hold that, and I gotta hold your amber piece
Yes,
with a
and
mantoid. Yeah.
yeah. So this is how much I know that I connect to the mantises. And then what else? Oh my goodness, yeah, like just the events and like Zoom channelings, and like channeling like real life as of now, which is a lot, for me. Yeah.
Yeah, doing one every month. I've been back to doing channel, and I obviously I you haven't said, but I imagine you don't have any kids, because you haven't said that you have kids, and usually people who have kids talk about them first. So like, hey, I got kids, you know.
Well, yeah.
But to be able to do once a month is crazy. Like, even just doing 3 months in a row for me, with all the kids and with life itself is a crazy thing. So props to you for doing that, and also being able to do it from such an early area of your channeling too. I know it probably took me 5 years to go past online stuff and start doing live stuff before I did. And of course, channeling is way better and bigger now, and everyone likes it a lot more now, thanks to Ruben and his show, and just thanks to the collective energies opening up. But congratulations for that. I want to go through the lightning round, and then after that, I want to open the floor to you to share people how to connect with you and talk a little bit about the event too. Does that sound good to you? Maybe 5 or 6 benevolent questions to help us know the Tony version of you that eats, sleeps, and breathes on Earth. Does that sound good?
Yes, go for it.
All right. First question: what is your favorite color?
Oh my goodness, I love blue.
Yes, blue is any type of blue or any shade of blue that's better than the rest, or feels better than the rest.
Yeah, so I say like cobalt blue, like very like dark bluish. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful color. Blue's actually my second favorite color. It was my favorite color growing up until I hit my 30 or my late 20s, early 30s. Yeah, I love blue. Blue is beautiful. What is your favorite food?
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, really, I love all all that kinds of food. I mean, like Thai food is really good, but I also love French fries. I love different types of French fries. You know, like the ones that are crispy on the outside, kind of like I guess mushy or like not as crispy on the inside. And if it's thin or thicker, so French fries is.
Is that your big jam?
What's that?
Is that your biggest jam, French fries?
I mean, yeah, like when we travel, I always love to get fries. I want to see how it's done, and just I love things crunchy. By the way, I love things burnt. Like you know, I eat my meat well done. If there's bread, I like it to be extra. I love that burnt kind of taste a little bit, which is Anyway.
Yeah, that's not bad. There are certain things I definitely could do more well done. But that's great. I love French fries. You're the first person ever to say French fries, and I absolutely friggin' love that. That's awesome. I have a buddy who we would go into this place called Chicken Coop, and they sold, chicken stuff, and he would go in and buy the fry box. And back in 1987, 88. So a box that's like the size of probably a toaster at this point, $5, and they packed that thing full, and he would just sit and eat them all in one sitting. He loved them. He still does.
That's French fries is good. Oh,
do you dip them?
I like them with, I would say, mayonnaise, and then with ketchup. But like the ketchup has to taste like a little tart. Like I don't like sweet like sweet ketchup, but like mayonnaise and fries is like, oh my god, so amazing.
Yeah, that's very European of you.
Oh, thank you. All the fast stuff is good.
Well, I've heard a lot of countries like in Holland and stuff, they love the mayo with their fries. I've never eaten it that way, but I love mayo, so it probably would be a banger.
Try it. You'll love it. It's amazing.
I will do. I don't like potatoes that much, so fries are about the only potatoes I can eat. So I'll definitely try that.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's funny you said it because I don't like, I dislike mashed potatoes. Like my husband loved mashed potatoes. He grew up with them. I did not grow up with mashed potatoes, so I have no interest. But French fries is a different story. It's like a different species of potatoes.
I love that. Yeah, no, I feel you on different potato. I can do, what is it called?
Sweet
potato. Lord, the shredded ones that are fried together.
Oh yes, like the sticks.
No, like they serve it for breakfast a lot.
Hash browns.
Hash browns. Thank you. Yeah, hash brown. I love hash browns if they're cheesy, but
crunchy.
And crunchy. Yes, they got to be crunchy. Absolutely. What is your favorite band and or song?
Oh my goodness! You know what? For the longest time, I was so much into music, and I completely diverted off. I love trance music, and like vocal trance. And I'll say like "Made of Love" right now by oh God, by Ferry Corsten, and I forget the singer. It's called Made of Love. I've loved it since I was like 19, like when I would go clubbing at a gay club. Then I created my own music video of it 3 years ago or 4 years ago, with Daniel James. Like he created my own because look, when I was 19, like I would listen like to that song and I just like loved it for whatever reason. Really, like not because of the words, because I never paid attention like, to the words. But like when I awoke, like that song came out of the blue like 20 years later. Every time I would listen to it, I would have this movie like replay in my head over and over and over again. Every detail would replay like to the T. That I contacted Daniel James, that I had to make a video, and I'll share it with you. It's all about love. It's all about expansion. And this was even before I awoke, when I was kind of awakening. So I would say Made of Love, and he did a beautiful job.
Well, I love that. Is it public? Is it people able to see it now, or is that something you tucked away?
I think it's on my YouTube, but I can repost it on YouTube so people can have access to it ASAP. Or
yeah, I would love to see it personally. Oh, sorry, you cut out for a second, so I thought you were done talking. My bad.
No.
All right, so what is your favorite type of animal?
Oh my God. I say Black Panther has always been, since I was a child, like that dark velvety black with I guess the yellow eyes would be right now what's coming to my mind.
I love big cats too.
Yeah,
they're beautiful.
Yeah,
I assumed you were going to say mantis, but it makes sense too. The energy from childhood brings me a lot of great joy with certain animals I really dug. And back when we were kids, you know, we didn't just get to look up online videos of it. We had to actually go to zoos or look at pictures in National Geographic to see our animals, right?
Yes. You know, yeah, like, and it's funny because like as like you say, like the word animal, I don't consider the mantises as animals in my own mind.
Yeah.
So like here's a limitation that just came up like during this conversation that I realized, is it an animal? But like what does animal mean really? You know what I mean?
Yeah, technically I don't think they're considered animals per se. I think it's more insects, but yeah, I think anything that's not a tree that moves is pretty much to my brain. My brain just lumps it all together.
No, it's totally fine. I'm just being
real. So I got two more. I know maybe the other one, if it comes to me, it comes to me. What is, out of all the places you've been in the world, what's your favorite place for both the visual beauty of the nature there and also the feeling of it?
Oh my goodness. Like a country, you said, right?
Yeah, well, it could be a city, it could be anywhere, just a place that you visually love to look at and a place that you love the feeling of.
You know what? The stars.
Is there any place on Earth geographically that you can think of? Like, for example, one of my favorite places is Sedona. The energy of all the beauty of the rocks and the feeling of it. Is there any place on Earth that calls to you more than the rest that you've been to?
Oh my goodness! I mean, of course, Sedona is amazing. I've been called to Mount Shasta. I haven't been, but I'm going soon, hopefully. That's been a massive calling. I would say like the Virgin Islands, like St. Croix. We go to St. Croix like a lot, and there's a lot of history there. Like the ocean life there is amazing.
I've heard
because
it's beautiful.
So I scuba dived once there, and I learned how to scuba dive. And we went like over this wall that drops like 13,000 feet or some ridiculous amount of feet, and like it was all reefy, right? So there's all these reefs, and it was like 20 feet high, right? So I'm swimming here, and like the reef is here, and the reef is here. And all of a sudden, there's a massive drop, and I went over, like I just like traversed the reef, and now I'm over this drop, and I felt this tiny, and I realized for a split second, oh my God, there's a whole world. Like the same way that you look up a mountain, there's one down. And I'm like, that's a world that's never explored. That's haunted me for the longest time. I want to explore it more. I don't know how I'm going to get that deep, but that's a place that just has so much reverence of like how unexplored these like places are. Like the ocean. So I'm Pisces. I love
So
water.
water's your thing, yeah.
I love fish. So that's why that's coming to mind.
That's
Um,
amazing. You know, a submarine might be the ticket to get you further.
I know, but I want to be in the water to feel like the water and feel the fish. And I want to swim with dolphins and whales. I've been dying to be near a whale, to hear them sing, and to be with dolphins.
A lot of the Hawaiian areas are really good for that too. That's where a lot of the dolphin swimming events or communication events with whales kind of kick off, or Japan. So maybe if you get an event over in those areas too, or just if you feel like taking a vacation there, that would be amazing. I don't know if I'm a great enough swimmer to go into the ocean. I can swim well, but in the area I grew up in, that we still live in Michigan, the Great Lakes are about the biggest things we've got, and they're beautiful and huge, but definitely not ocean big. I think I've only gone up to my chest in the ocean before.
Yeah. I mean, look, I still have fear like of the ocean, right? It's not like I just like dive in and like, hey, let me go. You know, there's always like the thought of part, but I've learned to kind of, just like see all the beings as beings in like not the society's view that a shark is bad and eats people or whatever the case may be. So like there's still some expansion there that happens, and this could be the reason why I'm called to do that, to get over, the 3D like limitations that are still embedded within my field, to just trust and know that that shark that I just saw is a divine being, is part of me, right? It's not going to harm me. It's all about love, and he's going to feel my vibration. I'm going to feel its vibration. So yeah.
I love that you're willing to face fears like that's not something everyone often does. My last question for you is going to be, what is your favorite childhood memory?
So funny we're talking about fish. This is so freaking funny. So when we were kids, like we lived near the ocean, and like my parents would take us to the beach every summer, and we would get a bag, like a plastic bag, and like we would put some rocks in it, and then some bread, and I would love for the fish to get into the bag, and I would catch the bag so I can have the fish in there, and then like we would release it. But it was just a beautiful memory of like connecting with like the fish energy, unknowingly, like what I was doing, right? I was a child, but right now just thinking about it brings so much connection, brings so much. I'm communicating beyond just a human, right? I'm in the water, and like these fish are here with me, and yeah, so that just brings me so much like joy and so much. And I would swim like dolphins, like this, like in the water, like as if I'm a dolphin. So that's another memory just comes to mind right now. There's just, I'm like, oh my God, it's like, I would feel dolphin, like it's so freaking weird right now that I'm thinking about it. I totally forgot about the memory. Like, I, that's all. It's a beautiful feeling of I guess oneness, right? I was one with the fish. I was one with the dolphin. Um, yeah.
Well, I love that. Thank you for sharing that too. And I want to get to the part, because we're running a little over, but I don't want to rush this either. I Before we get to the part where we talk a little bit about the event, and then I let you share kind of where people can connect with you at, I want to first say thank you for coming on tonight. It was a short notice show, and it was also something that neither of us had expected before we went to bed last night. And you took that graciously, but also getting to meet you in person was a great pleasure. You and your friend Nicolette, who is there, I believe that's how to pronounce her name, right?
Yes, exactly.
Nicolette.
Nicolette Morgan.
Perfect. She was amazing. You guys were both really great. Um, you caught my attention immediately just with the warmth of the heart, and knowing Daniel and him being your friend is just crazy cool, because I love Daniel and he's a real good friend for a long time. So it was great to connect with you, and thank you for being you, because that authenticness is that you bring out, that person that you want to be, that you're allowing yourself to be, and letting yourself be, is not an easy game. You struggled 30 plus years to 40 years, whatever the amount of time with that, and you're here in front of us being yourself, and that is something that not enough in our community is there. So thank you for all that, and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Rob, for this. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the invite. All in divine timing. I'm super grateful for you. I'm extremely grateful, like for your audience, just your energy, and when we met, um, and I'm just so happy and elated that we're here and that you get to hear my story, and hopefully it inspires people to be whoever they are, because there is support. See, this is the other thing. We think we're not supported, right? We're taught we're not supported. But the community will support you. The universe already supports you. Divine beings support you. Your other aspects of who you are support you. Your higher self is supporting you. So don't be afraid. You're not alone. You're always, always, always guided by your guides, angels, source, and your community, right? And you become like a beacon of light for the next person to be them. There's so much fear in not being you, because there's so much like suppression of things you feel like within you, that you know who you are, but you're afraid to express. And it's being done on purpose to not allow you to express. Because if you begin expressing, everybody else will express. And if everybody's expressing, then expression is changing and we're rising, right? As humanity. So thank you for this platform. Thank you for your voice. Thank you for all the guests you've had here, all the beings that you channel, your love, your energy, your light, your courage to go through the themes you're going through now, and for this now moment that you're creating.
Well, thank you, brother. It's very meaningful to me, and I really appreciate you, and very much love you, and thank you for being able to come. I want to talk a little bit about this event that's coming up, and this event both of us are going to be a part of. I'm going to slap this up real quick. It's on July 14th to 16th, 2024, the Stargate Crusade event and retreat. And I want to tell everyone a little bit about what you're going to be doing there. And I put up the wrong poster again. I need to delete that. Sorry.
No,
It's an old poster. There we go. All right.
Yeah.
So just if you could let us know kind of what you're going to be doing there, what your plans are, what you're offering and sharing in that place.
Yeah. So like we'll be there like for 3 like full days. The cool thing about this event, which is different than a lot of the events that we attend, is like oftentimes when you go to these big events, like you meet a channeler or you meet like a psychic or a healer, and you get to know them or speak with them for a few minutes. You're there with us for 3 full days, interacting with us, speaking to us. Like we're gonna channel for you. I'm gonna channel. Like we're gonna do activations. We're gonna do CE5. We're gonna release trauma. We're gonna do clearings. A lot of spiritual things for quick ascension. You're gonna leave the retreat knowing and understanding what ascension feels like, and it's gonna be embedded in your field. You'll never ever forget. And we have amazing presenters there that will help kind of facilitate it. But really, the intimate, true intimate setting of this, only 34 people that can be there, with 8 or 9 presenters. That's quite intimate for 8 or 9 hours a day. It's going to be amazing. You'll have the opportunity, like while you're there, because I became the owner of ancient artifacts, like a thing that I never was part of, but another synchronistic story, that's another episode. So I have an Anubis Islantian tablet that's 8,000 years old, that I just acquired, and it's a long story. And like, look at the back of it.
That's crazy cool. I've seen that in the video you did with Glenn and Daniel.
Yes.
Lauren, it was amazing.
Yes. So like this has been carbon dated, so it's real. Like this stuff you find at museums. You're gonna be able to hold, touch, and feel and interact with this ancient energy. Whatever download you get, you will get from this beautiful memory source. This also light up with black light. So like when I light it with, I have a flashlight, this black light. When I put it on it, this whole thing lights up, and and then it fades. So we have like two ancient artifacts. This and then like the 20 million year old. Like the amber, like that I have on my neck, that you will have the chance to sit with, like to meditate with, like to feel the energy, like to connect with your galactic guides. It's going to be a retreat not like any other retreat because of the intimacy and all these artifacts that we have with us. We're going to eat together, we're going to have dinner together, we're going to stay on the same compound together. So it's going to be activating in so many ways. Your mind's going to be blown. You're going to heal, you're going to be ascended, you're going to leave with the energy of ascension. You'll get messages. If you want to learn how to channel, I'm happy to teach you. Whatever. It's a very intimate, and also we want to get to know you. It's really important for you to understand that your energy there is key part of the retreat. This is not about us saying, I'm a channeler, come and see me. It's about inviting yourself and getting to know you. I want to know your personal life. I want to understand who you are. Let's channel together. Let's be like with each other. And your energy is key to us. You are there creating the retreat with us. And when you're there, you're a key element of the collective of all of us, connecting with the universe, going beyond, feeling things, getting memories. So it's just going to be phenomenal and mind-blowing. And of course, we have Debbie Solaris, we have Rob, we have Tyler Ellison, we have Glenn Mate, we have Nicolette Morgan, we have Stephanie, and we have Michael. Hopefully
Yeah, and the thing you said about how many presenters versus how many attendees, this is by far the highest presenter per attendee ratio I've ever seen in my life. And even though that's not the way that this experience is, where hey, this people talking, you need to listen. I'm just putting it in frame reference for other events that I've done. The only event that I've ever done was one that Kalina and myself used to do in Asheville, and we're going to start back. It was a 3-day extensive thing where we spent 10 hours every day together, eating, talking, and it was just me and Kalina. So, we had 20 or 25 people each time, and we made sure to keep it small, but those created friendships that still last today. The first one we did is in 2014, and 5 members of that have been to every Asheville workshop we've ever done. And they get on a Zoom call every week and talk and hang out still to this day after 2014. That's 10 years of being able to be friends and connect. So it's a shared experience that's profound, but this one creates an even larger energy than that, because you have all the people with their energy plus the people who are going there with their own desires to activate. They're adding to that, their guides. And this is something I found through the channel panel stuff. When you have all those types of people there who are sensitive and open, and you have all these guides that are working together in one gigantic group, there's nothing more powerful than that. So I really am excited about this.
Yes. We create a portal, like with our energies, right? Because our hearts are the portal. So imagine there are 34 hearts plus 9 presenters, whatever the math is, 40 something. We're going to create a massive portal of pure love. And imagine, and the CE5, we're going to catch, believe me, like when I say this, we are going to call them in as a collective. And it's going to be recorded. I have an amazing night vision camera that Daniel's helping me like put together with a massive lens that we're going to be using. So we can record what we see, like what we experience. So it's just going to be, and of course, like lodging is included, and then the food is included, like as well, right? So it's a great.
It's right on the ocean too. That's a big thing for me, being close to that energy of the ocean. And you as a water sign must be doing backflip about being able to be like the retreat is literally right on the ocean. Like you go
On the
100
ocean.
feet out and you're in the Atlantic Ocean, which is crazy cool.
Exactly. And it's on a ley line, like too. It was specifically like designed to be on a ley line. So it's just gonna be beyond like imagination. I mean, I don't know what to expect, right? Because we're gonna create the energies, like the guests and us. But it's it really like from my perspective, it's really important that the audience understands they're playing a huge role. Like as a guest in this creation, it's about our co-creation. It's not about us sharing something with you. It's about you sharing things with us sharing with you, and us co-creating this beautiful, amazing portal of love and infinite possibilities and expansions and realization. And you're gonna leave feeling high on life. Like your life's gonna, old paradigms gonna shatter and new paradigms gonna be born. It's just, that's the way that I can describe it. And I've received visions. I get visions like from my channelings, specific visions that occur, and I've already seen that. Like to the point my husband said, "How can you guarantee that, Tony? What do you mean they're gonna feel it?" I'm like, dude, your world and my world are two different worlds. Like seriously, I mean, he's kind of awakening like a bit, but he challenged me. He's like, "No, you can't say that." I said, "Yes, I can. I know what I create. I know what the presenters will create. I know with the guests when they come there how they're gonna feel and be. And no way on earth, with an open heart of infinite possibilities and pure love, are you not gonna create ascension? Feel it. Be in your energy. It's going to be part of your energetic body. It will never leave you again. And it's going to propel you to new paradigms of reality. It's going to deconstruct things within your mind. You're going to feel so empowered. You'll see. And it's all recorded too, right? So we have the media team by Daniel and Lauren, the Moment Imaging team, that will be like recording this whole thing, like for you to keep, to have memories, to relive those memories. It's just going to be a beautiful time.
I love that your husband challenges that part of you too, because it helps. Well, you know, I don't know your husband or your dynamic, but I imagine if it's like any other relationship, that pretty much anything within contrast brings about a way to reflect back that you can't normally do on your own. So I love that. We're running a little bit past, so thank you for sharing what you're going to be doing at the event. I look forward to being able to do this event with you. Can you share with anyone if they're like, hey, I want to get a hold of Tony, I want to check out you know, other things that he's doing? I know we have all your links below and the event link, but you know, how can people connect with you? What else do you got going on where people might be able to meet you or come and see you?
Yeah, so if you go to my website, tonighazi.com, TONIGHGHAZI.com, you'll find all the information there. I'm actually like revamping my website in the next like 2 weeks, so we're gonna have all kinds of events and offerings like added there. I'm also on all of the social media. I'm on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, also Facebook, at the Antarean-Heart. Yeah, and you can send me an email, which is the Antarean-Heart@gmail.com. Yeah, and I'm happy to connect with you if you have any questions or, you know, resources, or you need guidance. I'm here to help. And thank you, Rob. Oh, and I have the Mantis Beings, obviously, all the Mantis calls, which I'm going to have a store online that features like all of them. I just began making like necklaces, so I'm going to have baby mantises. Small tiny mantises that you can hang on here on your necklace. So these just got delivered today, like from Indonesia. All hand carved, by the way, all natural stones. And like the carver understands and knows exactly what the mission is. I picked him specifically with the idea of like opening the heart. They're all activated. I have my whole shamanic ritual like that I go through to activate it, to help you connect with your galactic guide, to expand, to channel, to begin channeling. It's an activator like any other permission slip, I should say, that you could use. But I think that's enough for now.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. And I know that you got a lot of things going on too, which is good that you got the website for the resource. And anyone who was interested, you can look at all the links that we've got down below. There was a couple that we didn't fit, but I think it was the TikTok and the Twitter we couldn't fit on the link share part. But all the other links are there. The website's there. Connect with Tony if you were excited by what you heard tonight. And thank you again, brother, for being on tonight. I appreciate you joining the show. I really enjoyed our conversation. And thank you for bringing your heart with you, brother.
Rob, all the thanks to you. Very, very grateful to you and your beings, and to your audience, and to Source.
Well, we appreciate you too, brother. And thank you all for coming tonight and joining the chat. The chat was crazy active, like it always is. Thank you all for participating and adding to that. For those of you who are listening on the playback and all the multiple networks that this is redistributed through, hello. Thank you for being around. And if you ever want to read through the live chat, come to the YouTube channel, ET Whisper, and check out the chat there. And we love you guys. Thank you all for being here. Next week, we have Wendy Kennedy. She's been a guest many times, a good friend of ours. We're going to be talking about a lot of great things tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week. So come and join us, guys, next Wednesday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern, and at 7 Pacific. This has been the Enlightenment Evolution Hour. I'm your host, Rob Goth here, and we'll see all of you next week or any time around on the other side. Love you guys. Have a good night. Thanks again, brother.
You're welcome.